Hello, my friends. This is Susie with Gemini Connect, and I'm here today with the Tamron 17-28 f2.8 lens. Now, this is a brand new lens from Tamron, and they announced it in June 2019, and it actually goes on pre-sale today. So if you're interested, put in your order for the pre-sale. But I was lucky enough to be able to get a pre-release copy from Tamron, and they are loaning it to me for a week. So I myself am not being paid or sponsored to do this. I just really love this lens, and I want to tell you a little bit about my first impressions while shooting with it. So this lens by Tamron is actually a follow-up to their wildly popular 28-75 f2.8 lens. And so this is the 17-28, and Tamron actually claims that these lenses are so lightweight that the weight of them combined is less than a kilo. And so far, I have to agree, this is a super lightweight lens. I'm really impressed with how small it is considering it's an f2.8. And it pairs really nicely with my Sony A7R III. And today we're here in the Amazon spheres, so I'm going to take some shots and show you the results. Alright, so far my first impressions are, again, it's super lightweight, and it actually works really well with my Sony A7R III to the point where I forget that this is not a native lens, that it's a third-party lens. The focal length is a little strange because it's 17-28, and there's no other focal length out there like it. In fact, the closest one to it is the 16-35, which Canon makes, Nikon makes. Sony actually has two different versions as well, but the main difference with the Tamron is that the Tamron is $899 compared to Sony's version, which is $2,200. So this is less than half the price of Sony's version. And even though I haven't used Sony's version, again, I think that the image quality so far has been really crisp. The only thing that I'm noticing is that it's not really picking up on face detect. But the thing with that is that this is such a wide-angle lens that I wouldn't necessarily use this for portraiture anyway. This is more for real estate, interiors, landscapes, not necessarily a portrait lens or a people lens. The only other point I think that's really worth mentioning is the fact that Tamron has a really generous warranty that lasts for 6 years from your date of purchase, which is extremely generous for any camera brand. I think Sony's own warranty only lasts for 1 year, so the 6-year warranty is super generous, and I haven't had to use it myself, but I've had other people comment on my other Tamron lens video, and they say that this is one of the hugest perks with going with the Tamron lens. So one other point that Martin actually noticed as I was shooting some portraits of him here in the spheres is that the colors actually seem a lot better when I'm shooting with this lens. So I don't know if it has something to do with the lens or, I mean, it has to be the lens because normally I don't like Sony colors straight out of the camera. So there's something about this lens that makes the colors look better. Another thing about this lens is that there is no OIS, or no image stabilization, in the lens. So it's not necessarily going to be great for video. You really have to rely on any IBIS or steady shot that's inside of the camera. And luckily with the A7R III, we do have 5 stops of image stabilization with Sony steady shot. So it might actually be okay with video, but I will show you some sample clips and you can make up your own decision about if that's a great lens for video or not. This is actually my first time using the Sony on a gimbal. I've actually never done this before. But I figure this Tamron says it doesn't have OIS, but it's really lightweight. It may actually be the perfect candidate for using on a gimbal. All right, take 2 with the Weeble Lab and the A7R III and the Tamron 17-28 f2.8. And again, this lens does not have OIS, but the camera body does have 5 stops of image stabilization, which honestly are not as great as some other cameras. I think the GH5 is much better, as is the Fujifilm X-H1, but it's better to have some IBIS than none at all. Start that way, and pan this way. Alright, so in the brief period of time that I've been testing this A7R III with the 17 to 28 millimeter lens, I do think that this is a really great combination for using on a gimbal, something like the Weebill Lab or maybe even the Crane V2 or the new Ronin SC, just because this is such a small camera combination here. And this lens, I'm going to guess, is much lighter weight and cheaper than the Sony equivalent of the 1635 lens. So I think in terms of a small wide-angle lens combination, this is a really great one for using on a gimbal for your video work. And it makes up for the fact that this lens doesn't have OIS. So in conclusion, should you buy this lens? I think if you're on a budget and you don't want to pay over $2,000 for Sony's equivalent, then certainly this lens is totally worth it. I think the size is a lot nicer, it's lightweight and more compact and easier to travel with. And so far the image quality has been really stunning. I think it's really sharp, the colors are great, and with that 6-year warranty as well, this is a really good deal. So definitely, I would recommend it. If I didn't already have a Canon 16-35 lens, I would totally be looking at this lens. But since I'm not on the market for it, I myself won't be buying it. But for anyone else on the market for a wide-angle lens for your Sony, I think this is well worth the money.